What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for January 1st, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Happy New Year to everyone except for the Philadelphia Eagles. You guys suck. I hope you have a miserable New Year. I hope you guys are all miserable right now because that's how I'm feeling. And honestly, let's just go right into it because I've got a lot to say about this game yesterday. First and foremost, I'm embarrassed, and they should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for the city of Philadelphia. I'm embarrassed for this team. I'm embarrassed at the way they played with no heart. And I'll get more into specifics on that in a minute. But to let the worst team in the league, basically, other than maybe Carolina, completely own you and just run the ball like you were their bitch is 100% just ridiculous. There's plenty of blame to go around, but defensively, you guys are terrible yesterday. They were absolutely terrible. I mean, Kyler Murray and the Card, like James Conner looked like Walter Payton out there. Like, it was absolutely ridiculous. And it's embarrassing. You should all be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed because I'm embarrassed for myself because I believed that you were going to put it together and you were going to this was the get right spot. There's no getting right spot with this team right now. This is hands down a worse fold than what happened to the 94 Eagles under Rich Kotite. Absolutely. Like, the season's over. They're losing to the Giants next week. I guarantee Tyrod Taylor, they go up to New York and get run out of the MetLife Stadium. Like, no chance, no confidence they win next week. And then it's one and done in the playoffs. Like, going to Tampa or Detroit, who cares where they go? They're going to lose. No heart. No heart to stop anybody. And I can't even put this on the offense as much because the offense, and I wrote down some stats, 3 drives in the first half. The first one was the punt, but they scored 2 touchdowns. They didn't have the ball. It's hard to do anything and get into any flow on offense if you don't get the ball, and they still were able to have that lead at halftime. The offense was very efficient in the few times they had the ball. Second half, 3 drives. They take away the Hail Mary at the end. But 3 drives, a touchdown and a field goal. I mean, the offense did what it had to do with the short amount of time they had the ball. The defense couldn't stop them. Like, the third down has been bad, but they couldn't stop them on first or second down either. Or fourth down. They went for it a couple times on fourth down. Just completely, they should be embarrassing. Like, they should be ashamed of themselves to put on that display. And you're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, and that's what you do. I mean, come on. Like, this is horrible. Absolutely horrible. They can't stop anybody, and they just seem so lethargic, and they were gassed, and it just, I don't know. And, I mean, A.J. Brown's not going to say anything, and he doesn't want to upset the apple cart, and I'm fine with that. I'll say it. Like, this has been this team all year. We've just been blind to it. We've had our Kelly green colored glasses on this year and have ignored it largely and said, oh, they'll get it together. No, this is this team. This is this team's identity. And I think we've just been blind to it. It's absolutely, like, they should be embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I believed in them. Like, I actually changed before we went out with the kids down to Franklin Square to see the little thing they have down there because I didn't want to be associated with the Eagles. Like, that's how embarrassing this loss was. And to put the blame on Brian Johnson, I'm seeing Brian Johnson this morning trending on Twitter. That's absolutely ridiculous. I told you what the offense did. They had the ball very few times, and when they did have the ball, they took advantage of it. 2 punts, okay, you're going to punt sometimes, but 3 drives, 3 touchdowns, and a field goal. And then the last drive was 30 seconds they had to try to move the length of the field. That's on Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson can't stop people. And I'm seeing a lot of people say, oh, Sirianni, the coach. And there's plenty of blame, and yet part of it does go to the coach, but it's execution. Like, Vince Lombardi couldn't make that team tackle James Conner yesterday. Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, nobody could make them tackle. Nobody can get, you can't coach hard. Like, you either have it or you don't. That team gave up. And I know people are just like, oh, you can't say that about professional. No, that team had no interest in stopping James Conner and the Cardinals yesterday. And you're not going to tell me that a 3-12 team or whatever their record is coming in and they're going to do it. I mean, this thing is snowballing, and this might end up worse than the Carson Wentz situation. I mean, that's maybe I'm overreaction. It's an overreaction Monday, but I see this thing going bad, and I don't know how they get out of this because you can't coach them out of it. I mean, I don't know. I'll have more on it once I'm able to see and really look, but this season's over. We'll suffer through next week, suffer through a playoff game, but I mean, I'm glad the Eagles aren't going to take my money for playoff tickets this year because I probably wasn't going to pay it. I want no parts of this team right now. I'm literally completely done. See you at the draft. Or free agency, whichever one comes first. But it's just, I'm disgusted. Absolutely disgusted, embarrassed. They should be embarrassed. And the last thing I see, again, it goes back to the offense versus defense. Everybody's ripping Jalen Hurts for reading off a prompter and, say something. What's he going to say? Was he supposed to throw his defense under the bus? Maybe that's what he needs to do, Aaron Rodgers style or something. But and then you have Slay mysteriously getting a knee surgery mid-season. This team's a mess. Absolute mess. It's a joke. All right. Enough about that. Question of the day recap from yesterday. We asked about your best moment of 2023. And for the most part, everybody said in one variation or another that the best part of last year was the Phillies playoff run. I tend to agree. That was a lot of fun. It's a shame the way it ended, but as always, thank you for participating in the question of the day. 267-495-8531. Get you in on the voice and text line. And just another quick rant while I'm already fired up. I love the negative comments too. Keep them coming, but come on, man. I guarantee you know who you are. Guarantee you're a Cowboys fan who all of a sudden pops up out of the woodwork to say, oh, that aged like stale milk. No, your Super Bowl trophies are aging like stale milk. Just get out of here with that. Quick housekeeping. Back to the Future. Couple more archives I'll give you this week, but be sure to check out the interview I had with Ken Avalon, the president of the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, from September 13th of last year. Great interview, great insight. We started a great partnership due to that, so be sure to check that out wherever you get your podcast as well as on YouTube. That's Back to the Future with a PH. Flyers showed a little bit more heart than what the Eagles did yesterday. They got down, battled back, still fell short 4-3 to Calgary. That means they've lost 4 out of their last 5 games. So hopefully 2024 will bring some new things better for them. Be sure to go check out our boys. Happy New Year. Don't get Eagles gear unless you want to put yourself through that suffering. But PhillyGoat.com has you covered for all of your Eagles, Phillies, whatever, Philadelphia sports apparel. Go check them out. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. That's PhillyGoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right, today we're going to go back to 2010. And on January 1st, 2010, it was the Winter Classic. The Flyers went up to Fenway Park to play the Bruins. Lost 2-1 in overtime. The Bruins became the first home team to actually win a Winter Classic game. Excuse me. Flyers only scored 1 goal by Danny Severette. He just was the only one to score. It was a defensive struggle. Former Flyer Mark Recchi scored the only goal for the Bruins. The Flyers did get the last laugh on Boston that year as they beat them in 7 games en route to the Stanley Cup Finals. You remember that epic series where they got down 3-0, battled back, and they got down 3-0 in the first period of Game 7 before finally winning. But on this day, back in 2010, the Flyers lost to the Bruins in overtime at Fenway Park in the Winter Classic. But the Flyers would get their last laugh in the playoffs that year as they advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, so for January, we're going to do Philly sports free agents who have found a fresh start or somehow rejuvenated their career, because we need to get the stank of 2023. 2023 was just not a good year overall. Yes, we had a lot of great moments. Our teams were good. They made it deep into the playoffs, but I mean, you think of it started with the Eagles' Super Bowl loss, ended with yesterday's debacle. You throw the Phillies not forgetting how to hit. It just, you know what? Air the grievances out. Let's go. 267-495-8531. Just get your vent your frustrations out on that text line. I'm still pissed. I'm trying to focus on this day in Philly sports history, and I can't because I'm that aggravated about that game yesterday. It's absolutely just ridiculous. But so what we're doing for January is guys who kind of January is a fresh start. Let's start off fresh. Let's try to 2024 is going to be a better year. But these guys came to Philly and, like I said, either rejuvenated or restarted their career or had a good first season in Philly. Just something that got the ball rolling for them. Today we're going to start with someone who you probably forgot, because I did, even played in Philadelphia, and that is Benito Santiago. Yes, Benito Santiago played for the Phillies. He signed with them in January of 1996. He was great with the Padres, had a cannon for an arm, went to play for the Marlins for a few years, then a year in Cincinnati. Then he came to Philly, and while he was in Philly, he had, it was 1 year, but he had a great year. First player to hit a grand slam off of Greg Maddux, who at that point had been pitching for 10 years, which I thought was a pretty cool stat. He hit a home run in 4 straight at-bats while with the Phillies. He had a career high that year, 30 home runs. He hit 264 with 85 RBI on a terrible team. The 96 Phillies were absolutely terrible. But he would go on to play 9 more seasons after that, and it sort of led to he was rejuvenated excuse me, when he got to the Giants. But he played with the Cubs, Blue Jays, Reds again, the Royals, as well as the Pirates for a little bit at the end of his career. He would go back to being an all-star, and I think part of it was that rejuvenation year in Philly, either that or the stink of playing for a horrible team. He was like, I got to get out of here and play better so I don't have to come back. But he did make an all-star game, like I said, in 2002, and definitely a forgotten Philly. He came in, had a career year basically in Philadelphia, and then left. And I think he really got lost in the shuffle of those horrible teams from the mid-'90s. But I'd like to think that due in part to his career year in Philadelphia, that led to his resurgence and the All-Star appearance again with the Giants. But today's Philly sports free agent who had a fresh start in Philly is Benito Santiago. Came in for a quick cup of coffee, hit 30 home runs, and then left just as quick, and we completely forgot that he was here. I'd like to forget about that Eagles game yesterday, but unfortunately, can't do it. But today's question of the day, and I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this, but you tell me, who's the blame for the state of this team? Is it coaching? Is it players? Is it a specific person? I'm not even going to give it a multiple choice. Just you let me know who's the blame. Get your vent, your rants. Trust me, you're going to feel better. Start 2024 off, especially if you're hungover. Unload on that voicemail line. 267-495-8531 is how you get in. Let me know your thoughts. Question of the day, who is the blame, or who should shoulder more blame? I mean, I think there's plenty to go around, but I mean, it's embarrassing. And like I said, this is way worse, I believe, because of the expectations and being 10-1. It's one thing to be 7-2 and then go on a losing streak like the 94 team did with Cote. This is way worse than that, man. You went from number 1 seed Super Bowl favorite to now you're just going to be one and done in the wild card round on the road. Like, it's just ridiculous. But again, let me know who's the blame. 267-495-8531. Let me know that or anything else. It's just a rant day. I mean, I apologize for the incoherence of this. I feel like I'm all over the place and not into it as I normally will. I will be better tomorrow. It's just I am absolutely disgusted with this team right now, and There's nothing that's going to save that. But on this day, back in 2010, Flyers lost to the Bruins 2-1 in overtime in the Winter Classic at Fenway Park. The Bruins became the first team to actually win, home team to actually win a Winter Classic game. Our Philly sports rejuvenation, fresh start, free agent. I got to think of a better name for that, I think, is Benito Santiago. Again, somebody you probably forgot that even played here. Be sure to check out Philly Goat. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off. Check out our interview with Ken Avalon from September 13th on Back to the Future. That is with a PH wherever you get your podcast. Like, subscribe, keep those comments coming in. 267-495-8531. I do wish you a happy new year, though. In all seriousness, I hope everyone has a safe, blessed, prosperous new year, and make sure to whatever your culture does for good luck today, make sure you're eating that or doing that. 2024, it's going to be an interesting year for our Philly sports teams, but I'll be here every step of the way with you. We've got a lot of good things, fun things lined up for the podcast, so as always, tune in every day, spread the word, like and subscribe. All right, I'm going to go figure out try to bleach my eyes so I don't have to think about that Eagles game anymore. But go have yourselves a Monday. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, Happy New Year.